How you doing, everybody? It's Instructor Hudson with Open Arms ENT. There's a device out on the market right now that dramatically increases the rate of fire of a semi-automatic rifle without technically being classified as a machine gun. It's called the force reset trigger. But here's the issue. Depending on how it's interpreted, it can either be legal or a serious federal felony. So let's break it down properly. A force reset trigger, or FRT, is a modified trigger system mechanically designed to reset the trigger system using the energy of the firearm's bulk carrier group. In a standard semi-automatic firearm, the shooter must allow the trigger to reset forward before firing another shot. With an FRT, the reset is forced, meaning the firearm assist is pushing the trigger forward, allowing the shooter to re-engage much faster. The result is an increased rate of fire while still allowing 1 round per trigger squeeze, at least in theory. To understand why devices like this even exist, you have to first understand what happened to machine guns in the United States. In 1934, the National Firearms Act implemented the first federal law that regulated machine guns. This was through registration and taxation. It was an attempt to slow down crime, dealing with groups like the Purple Gang, Mafia, and Al Capone. Then in 1986, under the Firearm Owners Protection Act, the government prohibited civilians from owning newly manufactured machine guns. This means that only registered machine guns made prior to May 19, 1986 could be legally owned by civilians to this very day. So with a very limited supply of machine guns that could be legally owned by civilians, that means that the price is high. So a fully automatic machine gun, an M16, could cost you anywhere from $15,000, $20,000, $40,000, easy. So that's where we are today. And you get triggers like the FRT. In an attempt to increase firearm efficiency and speed without crossing the lines of being a fully automatic machine gun. Federal law defines a machine gun as any firearm that shoots more than 1 round per function of the trigger. So the debate comes down to this. Does each trigger function fire 1 round per squeeze or not? A company called Rare Breed Triggers challenged the ATF in court over this exact issue. In that case, the court ruled that Rare Breed Triggers did not meet the legal definition of a machine gun. But that ruling does not automatically legalize all FRT triggers, and it does not eliminate future legal enforcement. Federal agencies have reported an increase in devices that enhance the rate of fire, including illegal auto sears and conversion switches. While FRT triggers are different, they're typically grouped into that same category with a lot of concern. In Michigan, there is no legal law banning FRT triggers, but the state has taken legal action with distribution, and a lot of manufacturers will not ship that trigger into this state. A binary trigger fires 1 round on the pull and 1 round on release. Because each shot is tied to a different trigger function, typically these are considered legal under federal law. An auto sear converts a firearm into fully automatic function, making it a machine gun, which is illegal for civilians to possess without proper registration. A wide trigger, wide open trigger, is another force reset trigger system and similar concept of the FRT. Then you have systems called the super safety. These are not standardized manufactured triggers. These are modified systems that try to replicate force reset behavior. Another thing that changed the game was 3D printing. A lot of these modified experimental designs are shared online and can be 3D printed right from someone's home. Of course, fully automatic machine guns are still in production. They can be owned by military, law enforcement agencies, and FFL dealers with a Class 3 license, as well as a special occupational tax license that only allows them to use it for business reasons or demo purposes. So being an FFL dealer, in the past few weeks, I had a number of people contact me, wanting me to get them an FRT trigger. So as I've been on the internet doing my research, trying to figure out exactly if the FRT trigger is something I'm going to add to my store, I just noticed a lot. So I went on YouTube and I see a lot of people testing out these different triggers that fire multiple rounds in a couple seconds. Whether the trigger is being reset and you're actually firing one round per squeeze, it's still firing a lot of rounds out really quickly. 100% of the people that I've seen and watched videos on shooting this FRT trigger, they all were in rural areas. They all were in the sticks, in the woods somewhere, shooting these firearms. Some of them even had masks on their face. So that leads me to think that they're scared to show their face while shooting this FRT trigger because they may be scared of the ATF coming for them for utilizing that trigger if it is or was to become illegal. I don't want nobody to get offended when I say this, but I thought about this months ago. Not years, but months ago. I came to a conclusion with the 2A community, with this whole big 2A community. Majority of the 2A community, majority of the people that carry firearms on a daily basis, majority of the people that are on YouTube doing videos about guns, and they're in these rural areas and they're shooting at, I don't know, fire hydrants, targets, whatever, cars. Majority of these people are nerds. Yes, I said it. They're nerds. Nothing's wrong with being a nerd. Nerds rule the world for the most part. So when I say nerds, what I mean is they're good American citizens. They go to work every day. They come home. You know, they try to make the right decisions. You know, they may read. They may go to church. They may have a family. You know, they're very knowledgeable on everything dealing with firearms. They may went to college. They may did good in high school. A lot of them don't have no criminal history at all. You know, they or other people that they know or grew up around never robbed nobody, never broke in a house, never stole a car, never sold any drugs. Some of them probably never got into a fist fight. A lot of these people are nerds. Some of these people actually hide behind the firearm. They get their force from their force reset trigger. I have a problem with that. Me being an FFL, me being a firearms instructor, me being African American, the majority of the people I sell firearms to, majority of the people that I train are African American. Yes, I do train other cultures. I've been doing this for a long time. I've trained law enforcement officers. But the point is, the majority of the firearms that I sell are going to end up in the hood. They're not going to end up in these rural areas where people are just randomly shooting guns at the air. I live in the city, so most of the guns that I sell are going to end up in the city. Most of these people are not going to go into a rural area and train with that FRT trigger. They're going to use it right there in their own backyard. They're not going to shoot at a fire hydrant or a big motor block cave or something. They're going to shoot it at a house with people in it. They're going to shoot at a car with people in it. They're going to shoot at a person over a misunderstanding. I'm not saying the ones that I sell to, but the problem is a lot of firearms that are legally sold, they get stolen. They get stolen from the gun owner. This is called an ATF trace. So every firearm that a dealer sells and it gets in police custody, we get contacted. We have to produce paperwork stating that we did our job. The most firearms that are confiscated are from the inner cities. Most firearms that are purchased in suburban areas, they don't get taken away from them as much as the firearms that are sold in inner cities. I see real quick turnarounds sometimes with a gun I sell and how sometimes they quickly end up in police custody. It may not always be the person has done something bad. It could have been it was stolen from them. And then the firearm was then caught on someone else and police now have it. It's just the problem with me and the FRT trigger is these triggers are going to end up in the wrong hands. And I don't feel that that type of force needs to be on the streets. So I don't just look at things from a customer point of view or from a Second Amendment point of view. I'm looking at this from a dealer's point of view, a firearms instructor's point of view, a leader of my people point of view, and human. Just being a good person. I don't want to put these type of devices in the street that a kid can ultimately possess. Besides me being an FFL and a firearms instructor, I also teach teenagers. I have a youth gun safety program that I do. And it's not for regular teenagers that want to learn firearms. This program is for troubled teenagers that get caught with firearms and arrested. And they get charged with different crimes. It could be a CCW. It could be breaking in a home with a firearm. They could have been in a stolen car with a firearm, or they could have actually shot someone. I've seen them all. I deal with teenagers that have actually killed someone. a lot of these teens are getting hold of ghost guns. A lot of these teens are getting hold of switches. And they are fully aware of what they have and possess. The last thing I want to see is for a teenager to have access to an FRT trigger. I had a student once. It was an adult student for my CPL class. She told me that she lost one of her teenage sons to gun violence. He was 16 years old. She told me that her son and his friend was in the basement and they had access to an AR-15. The friend, matter of fact, it was his cousin. His cousin had the AR-15 pointed at her son. He pulled the trigger for whatever reason, mistake or intentional. He pulled the trigger, one round hit her son in the head, killing him. She told me that when she found out he was deceased, she had to go to view the body to identify her son. In her mind, she was thinking he was shot in the face. She thought she was not going to be able to identify her son, not knowing exactly what that 223 or 5.56 round done or how it penetrated him. She said as she walked toward the body of her son, she seen his face clear as day. She was under the impression that she was not going to be able to identify him because she heard he was shot in the face. But she said she can see his face clear as day. She said as she got closer to him, she seen one dot, a red spot, one red drip dot right here on his face. She asks, "What is that? That red dot right there? What is that? What is that spot on my son's face?" They told her that it was the entry wound of the bullet. So when she looked on the side and behind his head, she said the round blew basically most of the back of his head off. Once she saw that, she dropped down to the ground in tears. That stuck with me from that day. And I can only imagine if that trigger was a FRT trigger. So I personally don't think that those triggers need to be out in production, only because I know for sure it's going to end up in the wrong hands. I can't speak for people who live in these rural areas and have a lot of fun. I'm sure they have a lot of fun out there shooting guns, and they don't have to worry about neighbors, law enforcement, or anybody coming into their acres of land to talk to them about this trigger. I'm in fear of being in my house and I hear something that sounds like a machine gun. And then someone's gonna say, no, that's an FRT trigger. I don't give a fuck. I don't wanna hear it nowhere around me because I live in a city and these guns are used in crimes. These guns are used for misunderstandings. They shoot each other for nothing. Most of the people that have FRT triggers are hard-working people. They go to work, they come home, they shoot guns on the weekend. The people that are going to use these triggers for real, they shoot at each other in the streets. They're going to take that trigger, put it on an AR-15 and take it to a school. Somebody's going to take it to a church. It's not when Or it's not if, it's when. So my prints, my hard work will not be on any FRT trigger. You will not be able to get that from red zone firearms. So I'm totally against these triggers. I don't care if they're legal or not. I don't think they should be in production. Then I also see online, they shooting these Barrett rifles. They're shooting a 50 cal BMG and then RPGs, basically a rocket launcher, and they shooting these in rural areas on the internet. So are those going to be acceptable in a residential urban environment? I don't think so. I understand that technology has advanced over the years. So the firearms that are out now, we're able to put all different type of parts in these firearms to make them do different things. So even if the FRT trigger is a semi-automatic trigger, it's still making and allowing the firearm to shoot multiple rounds within seconds. And if someone does not know and they're just hearing a semi-automatic pistol with an FRT versus they're hearing an actual fully automatic machine gun, that individual may not be able to tell the difference because they shooting out just as many rounds as the fully automatic and the FRT. So even if it's legal, that type of force does not need to be everywhere. It does not need to be in everyone's hands. Again, I'm tapped in with everybody, especially from my demographic, from the youth, middle age to the old age. Everyone that I'm training, everyone that I'm seeing in the environment that they're in with their families and so on, trigger system like that does not need to be in the residential area. So yeah, it's fine and dandy when they're in rural areas describing what it does and the capabilities of it, but most of those people are not going to actually hit the streets and get busy with it. Most of those people are going to secure their firearms and they follow gun safety rules. But the majority of the individuals that are going to commit crimes, they can care less about gun safety rules. They can care less about going to a school with it or going to a church with it or shooting up a house or a car with it over a misunderstanding. So that's why I draw the line at. So if those want to be used for fun and training in certain areas where there's nothing but woods and sticks and animals and things of that nature, fine. But for those to be sold in my community, I disagree with it totally. This has been another one from your boy Instructor Hudson at Open Arms ENT. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment. Peace.